Here, what's cracking? Good afternoon. Man, I'm gonna cut straight to the chase. This video is about a way that a person like me who is neurodivergent has been through a lot of trauma and has had a hard time establishing an identity. A thing that I do, and that, not this isn't limited to neurodivergent people or like people. This is something common within our generation where we relate to like fictional characters. I say it's a nerd thing. It's a very nerdy thing to do. And I'm a person who's very entrenched in certain aspects of pop culture, movies, TV shows, anime, comic books. I love all that shit. Proud nerd, feel me? So one of the things I always did, this has been since I was little, was I would, look at a character and be like, I really love this character. I really relate to this character. I just, it's what the kids call it on TikTok. Like, this so-and-so is literally me, or so-and-so is my comfort character. But, I just say, like, I really relate to this character. I really like this character. So I'm gonna name a few of them and say, why I relate to them. It's funny because as far as comfort characters go, there's this thing going around on TikTok where someone said, like, your comfort character shares your trauma. I was like, oh shit, that makes sense. So, yeah, let's get into it. First one, Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z. Now, when I was a little kid, like, and this is the first time, like, I looked at a character who was meant to be a villain and kind of, like, was just intrigued instead of just wanting to see them lose. I was kind of intrigued by their story and kind of wanted, like, when Goku told Krillin to not finish Vegeta off, and I knew that Vegeta was going to be back, I remember being excited. That was the first time I was like, even though I thought Goku was kind of a bitch for not letting Krillin kill him, I was like, but I was like, I want to see Vegeta. And then, when Vegeta went to Namek and that whole arc on Namek, I was like, this guy is my guy. This is, like, I'd never been so intrigued in my life. And I was like, I get this dude. Like, his whole life, he's born royalty. Born meant to be special. He has that drilled into his head. But then when his father and almost entire race is decimated and he's basically taken into bondage, into slavery, he still has that pride, but there's a discrepancy between that pride that was instilled in him by his father, but his circumstances where he's a slave, a flunky to Frieza. And it's a very interesting thing where you're like, I know I meant to do more, but someone's holding me back and abusing me and tormenting me. And and you develop those, along with that pride, you develop those real terrible tendencies where it's hard for you to relate to people and it's hard for you to connect with others. It's almost confusing when others try to connect with you. Like, when Bulma takes an interest in Vegeta, he's like confused at first. He's like, huh? Like, all he knows is violence and killing and getting strong. That's all he cares about. Being strong. Being strong so he could get his revenge. Being strong so he could, inherit the crown that was promised to him as a child. So, yeah, man, I love Vegeta. Like, a lot of the shit he does, like, I just understand. Like, shit, our hair is almost the same, you feel me? Who else? This one's not good. This is more of I saw him as what I wanted to be. I was obsessed with Scarface, Tony Montana, when I was in my early teenage years. I was so positive I was going to grow up and be a criminal kingpin and build that, but nah, I'm too lazy for that shit. But, like, he literally was like, even if I didn't follow in his footsteps, thank God, a lot of black men fell into that trap when they watched Scarface and wanted to emulate that, and they still do. But I still remember his persona of just this, like, it doesn't matter what's going on, like, I'm not gonna fold, I'm not gonna yield to anyone, you know, that rebel shit, like. But, you know, I mean, of course, it was also sociopathy and narcissism, you know, and, you know, that will manifest as what is rebelliousness. But so fucking flies. But yeah, man, I still love Tony Montana as a character, but I recognize as an adult he's kind of a piece of shit as well, and I'm glad I didn't try to become a drug kingpin. Who else? Oh man, so when it comes to literally me, when I was like in my teenage years and I saw Taxi Driver for the first time, I just caught a mosquito literally sucking on me. Hopefully it was a female. I don't know why I said that. I'm down bad, but no, yeah, man, I remember watching Taxi Driver, and these mosquitoes are gonna fuck me up. I remember watching Taxi Driver, and at the time, like, you know, my late adolescence, I was like, oh, okay, this is actually a person like me. Wow. Like, mind you, like, again, after growing and having some experiences and looking back, I was like, oh, thank God I'm not like that. But at the time when I first saw this, I was like, this man is me. This man thinks like me. This is like a movie made for people like me. Again, not a person you want to be like. Isolation for a season could be good. Isolation as a lifestyle is not good. You need somebody, you need a support system, and that was the whole point of the movie. Like, this is someone without a support system, without connections to other people, without at least some ability to assimilate and adapt to society. And, you know, we know society is shit, and it's kind of a losing battle to try to adapt anyway. But, you know, you gotta be a person like other people sometimes, to some extent. So, but at the time, I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I don't see what this dude's doing wrong. Thank God I'm not still in that same mentality. Who else? Oh, so, you know, I get older. I actually, like, learn to talk to girls and, you know, be somewhat charming and shit. I watched The Sopranos. And again, I'm watching the show and I'm like, everything Tony Soprano does, at least in the context of his world, makes sense to me. The things that make him angry would make me angry. The way that he reacts in those situations is how I could see myself reacting in those situations. His family dynamics, like, and again, if you see a trend with these characters, like, you know, you're right to see the trend. Like, a lot of these characters are, you know, have very antisocial, and when I say antisocial, I don't mean introverted or isolated. No, I mean antisocial as in sociopathic or psychopathic. Those qualities. And so I remember watching The Sopranos when it gets to the end and he gets diagnosed as a sociopath. I was like, huh? What? I was like, I mean, yeah, he's a criminal, a career criminal at that, but, like, he clearly loves his family, right? He clearly has connections to people, like, deep connections. He feels guilt at times. I know that's a Dominican. But yeah, like, this guy is not devoid of humanity. What do you mean he's a sociopath? But, you know, through a nuanced view of what a sociopath is. Limited empathy. Lack of empathy doesn't mean none. It just means not enough. That's what a lack is. Not enough. Not zero, exactly, but not enough. So, yeah, he does love his family, but his relationship with his family ain't great. Um, People he doesn't know, he doesn't give a shit about. Um, he has no control over his emotions a lot of the time. His anger, he acts impulsively. He tends to use people. Like, when you really look at it, it gets ugly. You feel me? And you get a picture of a man who wants to be a good person to some extent and gets in his own way. And I think that's what I relate to more than anything else. As much as, like, I say this is how I react in those situations, it's not a good thing. When I get mad, I lose control. When I get in my emotions, I have no control. I think I connect with people, and I a lot of times do actually connect with people, and I still don't know how to be the best brother or son or cousin or friend. You feel me? So that's what I relate to. When you're a human trying to be human, and there's a animal or a monster inside you that, you know, can be useful, but could also, even though it thinks it's helping you, it does you a disservice. So that's why I relate to Tony Soprano, or related to him. I still do. I ain't gonna lie, I still do. That's disgusting. Who else? Oh, let me get to a more recent one. Recently, my sister put me on to the show, The Originals, which is almost like a sequel series to Vampire Diaries. Now, I never thought I'd be watching any shit like this because I grew up with Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Blade, and, you know, vampires being very, like, you know, just gangster, like really fucking shit up. And, you know, after Twilight and all that, like, my image of vampire lore was very unfavorable, you know. So when I hear Vampire Diaries or something Vampire Diaries adjacent, I kind of have an to it. But my sister she started watching The Originals, and she's like, "You're so much like Klaus. You're so much like Klaus." Now, I remember I watched like some clips of Klaus out of context, and I was like, I'm like this? Really? I was like, this dude's a demon, but of course that's me being biased, because sometimes I'm a demon. But it's more about why he acts like that. Like, he's a vampire, he's immortal, so under his belt is over 1,000 years of trauma. Countless traumas that shape how he is. And like, you at first you see these traits of narcissism, you see this psychopathic type behavior, but then you peel back the behavior and you're like, you see the layers, and you're like, oh, this is due to vulnerability, this is due to trauma, this is due to at one point a character who was like a psychologist literally starts telling him, like, yeah, you have a fear of abandonment, your relationships are unstable, you have a poor sense of identity. And mind you, I majored in psychology, I have a degree in psychology, so I'm like, oh, she's literally reading symptoms of, or saying symptoms of borderline personality disorder to him. And, you know, it's been a good decade and some change since I wasn't fully diagnosed with BPD, but realized I had, you know, significant traits of that particular disorder. So even though my sister, like, very superficially compared me to Klaus, I realized, like, it was a very deep resemblance to him. And yeah, man, I recommend all those shows, by the way, shows and movies. There's a lot more too. I love The Punisher, Wolverine, Deadpool, Moon Knight. I'm an anti-hero type guy, you feel me? If you're a good person but you're willing to fuck shit up, like that's my lane. Or at least if you're trying to be a good person and you can fuck shit up, like really, like, you know, body shit, like that's my lane, man. So yeah, those were characters that are quote unquote literally me. My comfort characters, my favorite characters. Tell me some of your comfort characters. Tell me characters you relate to or favor, you know, in your you know, particular what the fuck am I trying to say? Tell me your favorite characters you relate to. And yeah, man, like, comment, definitely subscribe, because, you know, I'll be talking about real shit on this channel, you feel me? No cuts. And I'm saying no cuts, like, I even have taken the time to learn to edit like that, so that's why there's no cuts. But I kind of prefer this particular format with very little editing involved. I feel like it gives you a raw picture of my thoughts, my feelings, who I am. So until next time, have a beautiful, beautiful Friday. Peace.